Welcome, everyone. Let's begin. You guys have enough room in here? Sitting comfortably. Dropping in. But also dropping expectations like straight away, and there's a soft release of what we may show up with on our list of things that we desire. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but by releasing it, we keep ourselves open to the possibilities. Personal practice of whatever it is for you, seeking, personal practice of conscious embodiment, of centering, however you describe it. For me, it has always evolved and continues and will always evolve because we are evolving as a species, hopefully becoming more and more conscious. And at the root of it all is an elemental or even primal understanding. Like, we have to understand how our bones have been shaped over time through the evolutionary process and continue to be shaped by whatever it is we're doing right now. So this is why it's so important to very lovingly realize that the life that we lead may be limited with regard to conscious movement. And it's been more and more clear over the years that range of motion, not within the context of flexibility, but within the context of simple movement and creative expression, seem to be parallel with range of experience. So, for example, if your hips are moving just a little bit each day, relatively, then that's the range of experience in the hip. And there's also been a very strong chord of getting back to functional, and that's difficult to find. That can be difficult to discern. This is where much of this practice comes from. The Embody keys are simply that. They are keys that unlock what you already know. So moving in a crouch, in a squat, in a lunge, or standing, sitting, as you are now in the key of sitting, is something that you can remember, going all the way back to being a baby. The first time that you sat up intuitively because it's coded in your DNA. Can you remember that now? Can you remember taking up that verticality, the space between sky and ground? The core coming online in a different kind of way, stacking the vertebrae, elevating the heart, grounding the sits bones, etc., etc. It's super yummy to realize that you can remember how to move. So I will support you in that always, and also try and keep you safe. Help you be proactive in keeping yourself safe. So find the contact through the sits bones on whatever you're sitting on, and imagine pulling the fabric of the ground backwards with your sitting bones. And this will lean the pelvis a little bit forward. And then this is complemented by the belly emptying backwards. And this is tricky. I talk a lot about this, the hollow belly. You do not want to suck your belly in, but you do want to invite the belly to pay attention to the spine. And in that intention, you're going to be asked to open up the lungs in a different way, to breathe more fully and freely through the rib space, through the lung and heart space, so the layers of the chest and the back and the shoulders have to soften to receive a deeper movement in the breath as the belly comes in closer. Change the way that you're sitting intuitively, because staying in one static position for very long, even though many people can do it for a very long time, may not be the most natural thing in the world to hold ourselves to a certain shape. We have to allow the energy to move. So you change the geometry, which is like having more words in the lexicon, the vocabulary of your movement and your understanding of embodiment. But the universalities of pelvic orientation, of core orientation, are golden threads in this practice. So now let the pelvis fall back. Let the sits bones point forward as you roll the pelvis back, and the belly kind of empties backwards. So the low belly below the navel pulls back to the sacrum, and then from there, hook your sits bones into the ground and pull the ground back to sit up tall. But don't go all the way to the front of your range. Just get as high on the sits bones as you can, and then push down a little bit more enthusiastically through both sits bones, like a couple of acupuncture needles for the earth. There's awareness in that attention to be present. The crown reciprocally opening to the sky. So as you begin to really pay more attention to your exhalation, to your inhalation in turn, let the breath have more space to do what it needs to do, which means that don't try to change the breath with technique, but by observing the breath, the consciousness holds a different space, a wider space. So it's a longer, more thorough exhale that includes your bones, it includes your skin and your blood and every fiber of your being. The inhalation is patience. Let it be received rather than taken. Once again, change the way that you're sitting. Do something different. Just a few more moments here. These first opening moments of every time we share class space, practice movement space, are vital. In yoga, we would call it centering. And as much as you may be able to arrive in the moment by controlling yourself and regulating yourself, see if there's a deeper way in letting go of the unnecessary and having the discernment to know the difference. So to shed residual tension with an exhalation is what we're pointing to. To sit taller in the spine because you're carrying less of a load. You feel it in your eyes, you feel it in the matrix of the face, the neck, the shoulders, and everywhere else we tend to, as humans, hold a lot of tension, hypertension. So for the next few moments, cultivate a sense of breathing behind you, even outside the body, behind the tail, behind the sacrum, behind the belly, behind the kidneys, behind the lungs and the heart, behind the voice, behind the cranium. So as if you're sitting in the woods and you trust life enough to lean back against the aspen. And it does not matter the shape of your body. There's only the awareness. This is human. This is the reality. So let's come lying down into the shape of supine, the key of supine. So remember that in the Embody Keys language, there are 7 basic human shapes. This one lying down is really easy, right? But also, we spend a lot of our lives supine, of course, a lot of it unconscious in the act of sleeping and the function and purpose of sleeping. But here, lying down consciously, pushing the legs out long, pushing the heels a little bit further downstream, maybe laying your hands on the body. And the orientation and gravity changes. Right now, of course, you're able to let the bones rest. So exhale by exhale, as we often do at the end of practice, like you've done at the end of a yoga class in Shavasana, to consciously give your bones back to the earth. It has become hyper clear over the years that to begin a deep practice without the practice of spaciousness can be difficult. And so as we lay down and get everything closer to the ground, here we have the very back line of the body, the back of the body that was just leaning back against an aspen tree, metaphorically, when sitting. You can start to enter the core here and become active in this moment of laying down. Bring your legs together and point the toes towards the ceiling with the backs of the heels on the ground, and give the knees a little bend, just a little bend. And you can actually pull the heels down into the ground. You feel the hamstrings, the backs of the legs turn on. Even turning on the buttocks. Hopefully the buttocks will also engage, but not fully, just partially. Now find the sitting bones, even though they're not touching anything, and point the sits bones forward and down so you get a little bit of a back bend in your low back. But that's only half of the equation. Now let the belly empty towards the floor, bringing the kidneys and the lumbar spines very close to the ground without tucking the pelvis. Still, the hands might be on the belly to feel what's happening here. So we're tuning into the core, this mantra that allows us to show up in any shape, in any moment. So once again, the heels pull down. You should feel the backs of the legs working. The sits bones point forward and down. Buttocks turn on gently, which feels very supportive. Drop the low belly, the middle belly, the upper belly towards the floor, keeping all the rest before it. And now let the breath be open and free and wild, like the wind through the trees on the mountain. So we invite ourselves to get out of the way with love, out of our own way. Still, we're engaged in the core. The backs of the legs are starting to burn a little bit, right? The toes starting to play around, moving around. And then we're going to walk the feet in, but keep the tone that you've established. Keep the tone as you set the feet closer to the hips, and go ahead and lift the hips off the ground into like what would be like a bridge pose in yoga. But we're going to let the belly, the hips, and the legs move from side to side. So go ahead and walk your shoulder blades in closer together and down the back. Picking up the hips as high as you're comfortable with this early in the practice, but letting the body shift from side to side, even rocking so far onto one side that you have a shoulder coming off the ground and maybe one heel coming off the ground, the one that you're leaning away from. So brushing the belly and the pelvis across the sky, working the back chain of the body, the back continuity of the body. When you lean onto one shoulder, really enthusiastically pull that shoulder down into the ground, the tricep digging into the ground, moving side to side. And try to keep the hips higher than the belly. Don't lead with the diaphragm, lead with the hips towards the sky. Now let the pelvis come down, lightly landing on the ground, somewhere near your midline. Drop the knees together, with the feet a little bit wider than the hips. And as the knees prop each other up, you can feel the depth, the D-E-P-T-H of the inner groin, the inner thigh, as it sails forward away from the ears, deepening the the space between the sits bones, and you might feel a deep flush, a huge response, a positive response after the bit of back bending. For every moment that you feel some kind of blissful circulatory response, a feeling of warmth and or cooling, spaciousness, aliveness, give it space. Just watch, just witness how little conscious movement it takes to wake up so much movement, energy. Now, quite complementary to what we just did, take the legs slowly up into the sky. Now, your legs don't need to do anything in particular. In fact, just very slowly walk around on the sky with your feet. So if the sky could come down to meet you and rest like a heavy blanket on your feet, and you could push your feet into the fabric of that sky, walking around, careful with no mat. If you overround your low back or have a rigid lower spine, it can be intense. But walking around like a mime on a very low sky. And sometimes you'll push all the way to a straight leg, but it's not to seek a hamstring stretch. It's just to reach to full length. Try turning in and out at the hips, bending the knees more. But more than anything, move as if you're in water. Move as if you're in something more viscous. Gives a sense of more feedback of every fiber of your movement. Breathe and be powerful as you move. Self-resisting is really the technology of the biofeedback that we need. That's the change in viscosity. When you tone and resist your own movement, pretending the sky is heavier and heavier, then you're working more intensely. Let the legs fly away from each other creatively. Just articulate every joint, hip, knee, ankle, the bones in the feet, pointing, sometimes reaching through the heels, others. Now let the legs go all the way up and cross one ankle over the other, doesn't matter which. And take the hands up into the sky, turn the palms towards the ceiling, lift your head and your chest off the ground. Now lift the heart up between the biceps more. Drop your chin to your chest and just stay here for a moment, pushing the hands. And now let the legs cross the other way. Now the neck gets tired holding a static position, so keep the head elevated, but turn your head and look over your left shoulder. Lay the head slightly back without touching the floor. Lift the head, still looking to the left, and then slowly zero the look to the feet. Look to your right now, slowly. Breathe. Everyone breathe. Let the head lay back almost to the floor, still looking to the right. Bring the head back up. One more time, look to your left. Let the legs uncross. Keep pushing the heels and the palms towards the sky. Look to your left. Lay the head back, just barely touch the floor. Roll across the back of the head over to the right side, and then lift the head as you look to your right. Push the chest to the sky, push the hands, reach into the heavens. Zero your gaze right between the legs. Bend the knees, very consciously bend everything, and bring the feet back to the ground, resting the head on the earth. Push the legs out long, heels far away from the back of the brain. Once again, allow yourself to experience the deep stirring, the remembrance of the life force, the chi, prana, breath of life. Beautiful breath. Beautiful breath. Okay, bend the knees, walk the feet in, and creatively come up to a seat. And sit however you like. Just keep it simple. So we've been doing this practice recently, borrowed from forms of Chinese martial arts like Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, is the practice of sticky hands. And we do it in several different ways, but you're going to be doing it with yourself. Normally you would face off with with a partner and keep a very light touch, hand to hand, and you would move with each other. It's this beautiful dance. You're going to do it for yourself. So touch the hands in any way. It could be the lightest, simplest touch. And first, just give a moment to feel the connection between the hands. I like to start with just the fingertips touching, but it could be something so simple, this easy connection, okay? And keeping the lightest touch, start to let the hands dance with each other. So at first, if the mind is unfamiliar, the left mind especially, it's like, I don't know how to do this. This is not about learning. It's about just touching, and you know how to do that. And so you begin to flow, playing with articulations of wrists and elbows and shoulders as you fly around. And check yourself every once in a while, go about half your current speed and engage the body a little bit more, but keep the touch light. Now you start to find, as you open up to the possibilities, all of the sort of choices that are made, not by the mind, but by the intuitive space, the impulse to move a certain way, to engage a certain way. You can also play with variations in how much you push and pull against your own body. So as the touch started out very, very light, it can start to become very powerful, testing the integrity and the strength of your shoulders and the neck. Basically pushing and pulling on your own fabric. Not just the hands, but one hand can slide and wrap its serpentine way around the arm. Now let the hands fly apart and see if you can maintain or cultivate a sense of connection between them, even though they're not touching directly. They are, of course, connected through your body, through the core. But as they dance with each other and the space between them opens up, you can still feel it palpably, this connection. So why do we do this? Right? What's the focus in the martial arts? It's about cultivating subtlety in feeling, subtle connections. Because there lies your deep power. The subtler, the more powerful we tend to be with our awareness and the choices that we can allow to come through these creative impulses. So here we are, dancing in the key of sitting. Constantly aware of each other, the hands, no matter where they are, no matter how close or how far apart they happen to be. Good. Now, slowly let the hands come back together, and the contact is going to be relatively soft. You may notice that how your whole upper body got involved, just the movement of the whole upper body, the spine, the shoulders, the neck, the head even, and the hands retouch, they reconnect. Okay, now we're going to switch, whatever way your legs are crossed, switch the other way. So your other leg is in front. Beautiful. Okay, so now start to lean side to side, moving bilaterally. And when you start this, you might, depending on familiarity with it, you can lean in enough to where the hip you're leaning away from is leaving the ground, which is totally great. Do not try to keep your hips both planted on the ground. We're loading one hip and floating the other. So you can start to now let the hands begin to dance again. So you're going to counterbalance by reaching the arms across the midline when you lean to one side. And you're going to notice you're going to be feeling all kinds of complex stretching through the hips, through the side body, especially the skyward facing belly. So it's really important, remember, to find those exposed places. They show themselves as a stretch, and then engage that space so you do not feel the stretch, or you greatly diminish the quality of stretch because stretching as an isolated function is not so good. We want to engage the stretch. Eccentric contraction, more intelligent, more functional, more primal. So you go deeper and deeper, and you start getting to the place where you might tip over and roll onto one side, and that's where we're going to start to put the hand down. So as you lean to one side, placing the hand outside the hip, the elbow in close to the body, and then you can take a little bit of weight onto that hand and make sure that the loaded shoulder blade pulls away from the floor with everything you have. Strong belly. As you go back and forth, noticing that whatever leg is in front, that hip is going to be more challenged when you lean away from that hip. So my left leg is in front. And so you can take your front leg and you can set the leg. You can have the knee up and the foot down. This is whatever leg is in front. Back and forth, side to side. So opening the hips by way of playing in the key of sitting. Let the head look around. Try not to fall back on the sits bones, meaning don't roll the pelvis into a tuck. Stay more forward on the loaded sits bone, if possible, leaning the pelvis forward to the front of the shape. Boy. Now, if it's too much on the shoulder, or you're probably leaning into it too much, you can use your free hand to assist. But you can also get down so low that you can lay the temple or the forehead on the floor. So loading the shoulders very consciously, just a little bit more, everyone, pulsating side to side. Massaging and opening all the micro corsets of the joints, especially the ankles, knees, all the bones in the feet, the hips, the sacrum. Keep the glutes, the buttocks should be on all the time here, but not, like fully, just in support mode. Same thing with the belly. Great. Okay, now we're going to come up to neutral and take your time coming up to the shape of standing. So however you do that, all the way up to standing. Okay. So this other more recent shape, I think standing is more recent in our evolutionary path. It's still very old. There's some people arguing that we were never supposed to become bipeds, which is interesting. Start with the hands somewhere on the body. Look down at your feet, the feet parallel and close, knees unlocked. And we're going to drop the right foot back just a little bit so you have the left foot in front. So it's a very human, asymmetrical stance. And now, bending the knees so you have some spring in your whole body, the coil. You just drop your hips back and look down a little bit, and then rock forward. Okay, so we're getting into this baseline that we do in almost every class of exploring the relationship in the key of standing between front and back. And so when you are pulling forward and the hips forward, you get a little bit of a back bend, right? Pull the ground back with your feet. And when you move back, a little bit of a forward bend, you're pushing the ground forward with your feet. So move the earth. So we talked about moving in water. This is much more rich and deep, is to move the planet itself. That's your orientation. And the arms begin to do their thing. The action of pulling forward as a function is huge, and pushing back with your feet. You can also get the arms involved, so you can pull yourself forward with your hands, with your arms closing the shoulder blades and looking up a little bit in the back bend. And then when you rock back, you can push the hands forward, the feet pushing the ground forward, and explore. Now from here, there are thousands of variations. Okay, so some of the best are to just start turn the front leg out, the left leg out. And each time you move forward and load that left leg, it's really important to turn the left knee out actively. Okay, and as you push back, feet push, you sit back and you drop. Now the back leg can turn in, the back leg can turn more out. I'm just giving you ideas. But it's really how you meet this, my friends, breathing and the tonality of your whole body, articulating every cell with strength and elasticity. The stronger you are in this movement, turn the front leg in now across the midline, the left knee and toes pointing to your right, but continue forward and back. The stronger you are in the movement, the more you're getting out of this, the more you're resetting and purifying your system. Yes. Try to keep the hips turned more forward, even though the front leg is turned in as much as you can. Now we're going to turn around to the right, 180 degrees, and keep pulsing, keep moving, keep dancing, and you end up at the right foot forward. So start simply as we did before, the feet relatively close. For now, the right leg is straight ahead in orientation to your own pelvis. Rock forward and back by moving the planet with your feet. So, we could just go through the movements, we could just go through the motions and be relatively disengaged, and that would be worth something. But moving within water, or moving within honey, or even clay, this is the metaphor of moving the earth itself, demands much more attention. I love that word now, attention. Tension, right attention. Because you can. Ido Portal says the best reason to move is because you can. So do that. And now turn the front leg, the right leg out as you continue to pulse anterior, posterior, front to back, back to front. So you should feel your whole body working. The legs are easy, but the upper body may be showing up. So you got to turn on everything and breathe wildly. Turn your front leg in now, the right toes and knee turning to the left, but continue your front to back movement. Drop your hips lower to the floor. You get a lot more out of the whole thing. Find a little bit of a back bend when you pull forward. You can arch the entire body, extend the hips, extend the spine, and look up. Now, just a quarter turn to your left, and you end up with parallel feet. Let the feet come relatively close together. So the same practice of witnessing that we were enjoying laying down on our back in the key of supine is happening right here. So standing requires a lot more core. Keep the knees soft. Give yourself a chance to feel what's moving in you, the experience. So these reflections of circulatory, which means not just physiological circulation, but energetic circulation. These beautiful experiences of feeling the awakening, the quickening. One of the reasons we keep coming back to the practice. Right? These are signs of life, really of being allowed to be free. Moving the hips very softly side to side now. Very softly side to side. I've got a few fingertips on the lower dantian below the navel, way below the navel. Because this is a point of attention. This is representing your gravity center. In fact, it helps ground when we drop the false gravity center of the chest and the head down into the root belly and the core. We're closer to our center, then we're going to be more grounded. Now, the soft movement side to side of the hips, right, is actually moving the earth side to side, like a playful monkey on top of a giant beach ball. Move the ball, the top of the ball, to the right to go left with your hips, and then move the ground to your left to take your hips to the right. For now, keep the head more or less over the midline. But there's tone in the arms. There's tone through all of the tapestry of the torso. There's tone as you open it up now. Bigger movement. There's tone through every fiber of your being. Tone is musical. It's not just strength. It's the old proverb of if you tighten the string too much, it will snap. If it's too slack, it won't play. And then this is where we need to really go back to and play elasticity and strength simultaneously. This is what moves the lymphatic system. This is what boosts the immune system like none other except your nutrition. Now let the legs begin to break loose. You're still moving side to side, you're bending your knees more, but now the footwork comes in, and the balls of the feet lift, and the heels lift every once in a while. You start to play, and it's just basically a slow dance, moving in the side to side way, slow and strong. They go half speed and twice as strong. Beautiful, like anything is possible. You can glimpse as you do this. You can feel, like, wait a minute, I already know Tai Chi. I already know Kung Fu. Or you can glimpse the origin of those practices, where they come from. That's powerful. That's origin. So moving the earth side to side with your feet, dancing, moving, trying, turn the legs in, since we're very good at turning the legs out. Or one leg in and one leg out. Strong. Really strong. And strong feels good because strong here is support. Forget the old sort of story between masculine and feminine and realize that strength is universal. Strength is unified. And strength just means attention, presence, participatory tone. This is life. This is nature. Keep going. Now you're going to start to bend at the hips. So moving from the key of standing down slowly towards the key, the shape of folding, where we fold at the hips. Like in yoga, it would be like in Uttanasana, but we're moving side to side still. And the fingertips touch the floor, and you hang your head on a long neck, and you just keep your footwork going, put your palms down, you bend the knees enough, and you're tossing the earth side to side with tremendous love. That's how strong you are. You're pushing the hands down, loading the hands so much with the feet that it almost feels like you're bearing as much weight in your hands as you are in your feet. Moving side to side, letting the head turn. Work. It's worth it. Imagine the oak tree, like just kind of going, yeah, I'm not feeling like it today. It's like there's a fundamental purpose, right? There's a fundamental purpose to everything in life. And not the traditional purpose of a career and all of that. That's an extension of it. But what is your primal purpose? And what if it is just simply to come into being? That's the etymology of the word existence. It literally means, from the Latin, to come into being. Now, lower the hips even lower as you start playing with variations of the key of squatting. Asymmetrical or symmetrical, it doesn't matter. And you're going to move around in the squats. You can change size. Be very careful with the knees. You need to put a lot of attention to the feet. So the feet need to grab on, the toes grab onto the ground, the cores of the feet active, and this supports the knees. But also point the knee in one side where that foot is pointing. They should agree most of the time. So where the thigh points, the foot points beneath it. And we're going to have a seat, sitting however you like. So all of the variation in standing, to all of the variation of folding, to all of the variation of squatting. These three human shapes that your DNA remembers. We enter the shapes and start exploring. looking for the textures and colors of variation. This is a creative process. And you can feel right now, as you close your eyes, the landscape and the scope of the power of that. So much space now in the hips, in the sacral, lower lumbar spine, space in and around the heart, lungs perhaps, even in the neck, the voice, and the eyes. Blossoming behind the eyes. Now sit with the right leg in front if you're not already, crossing. And just drape your hands, wrists over your knees, and allow the pelvis to fall back again. And as the pelvis rolls back, lean over onto your left sitting bone, and then let the pelvis sit as far forward as it can, all by itself. The torso will follow. Then let the pelvis fall back on that left side, left sitting bone. Come back to the middle as you roll back, and then sit right up through the center where we began, as far forward as you can. So remember that this movement is coming from within the pelvis. It's not being led by the belly. Let the pelvis fall back. Roll over to the right side, on the right sitting bone, and then roll as far forward on the right sitting bone as you can. This is all in the hips, all in the pelvis. Let the pelvis roll back on the right side to the center. Come right back up the middle again. Pulling the ground back with your sitting bones. Strong belly, strong belly. Let the pelvis fall right back through the center. Over to the left. And riding forward onto the front of the left sitting bone. And falling back on the left side. To the center. As you roll back, come right up the middle. Pulling both sits bones back as far as you can. Strong belly at the very front. Pelvis falls back. Go over to the right side. Pull the ground back with your right sitting bone. Just a few more rounds, so fall back on the right. Drop to the middle. Pull right up through the center, leaning into the moment. Fall back through the center. Go over to the left. Pull the earth back with your left sitting bone. Glutes on, belly on, fall back on the left. To the center. Pull yourself right up the middle. Fall back through the middle. Over to the right. Pull up on the right side. Now, release. Come back on the right. Center yourself. Sit up tall. Switch the way the legs are crossed. Left leg in front. And continue. But what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 extra points. So lean as far forward up the middle as you can. Roll the pelvis back down the center. Go all the way over to the left, like we did before, and pull up on the left side. Then fall back on the left and come just a little bit closer to the midline, but still on the left, and come up again. So now you're between the center and the far left. This is just giving you an orientation. Fall back on this mid-left to the center, and then roll right up the center. Very powerful in the core. All core. Let the pelvis fall right back through the center. Go all the way over to the right and fly up the right side, leaning the pelvis in. This is anterior or forward rotation of the pelvis. Fall back on the right side, posterior rotation. Come not to the center but close, and come right up through the space between the center and the right. Come right back to that mid-right to the center, and then roll right up the center line. And one more time. Pelvis falls back through the middle. Go all the way over to the left. Pull the left sitting bone back as you lean into it. Drop back down the left side and come halfway to the center. Come right up, so mid-left, if this makes any sense. Fall back where you are. Go to the full center, right down the middle, sit all the way in, leaning in. Again, don't lead with the diaphragm. Fall back through the center. Go all the way to the right and lean into the right side. fall back on the right, and then go mid-right, right between the center and full right. So this is just giving you more language. Fall back mid-right to the center, and then sit all the way up as far back as the sits bones can pull, fully flexing the hips, but then draw the diaphragm a little bit back, shoulders open. Then let the pelvis fall back just a touch from full forward until you feel like you are as high on the sits bones as you can be. You can't get any taller. Okay. Put your left hand down outside the left hip. Swing your left leg out to your left. And lift up into a side squat. So you're squatting on the right leg, and the left leg is out in front of you or off to the side with the toes up. The knee is bent though. Take your hands inside the legs, lift the hips, translate over to the left side squat. Come in nice and easy. Use your hands to take some of the weight. And again, so the loaded leg, the squat leg, that foot needs to be very much grabbing onto the earth like a gecko. And once again, lift the hips, translate over to the right side, squat on the right. Put your left hand down outside your left leg, have a seat, bring the legs in cross, but take the right leg in front. Pause. So just feel that simple phrase of movement, what we just did, stirring so much energy. Take your right hand just outside the right hip. So you can swing your right leg out to the right, set your left leg, which means the knee is up and the foot is down, and then lift up into a side squat. So you'll probably have your left heel off the ground. Bend your right knee a little bit. And then carefully use your hands, go slow, translate to a squat, side squat on the right. So this is about being close to the earth, comfortably. Having lots of options available to us when we fall, when we get up, when we sit down and we get up. Change over to the left side again, side squatting. I'm just warming up the two phrases that are coming for the end of class. And from here, set your right hand down outside your right leg and have a seat. Take the left leg in front as you sit cross-legged. Pause. Pull the sits bones back, leaning the pelvis forward, but then invite the belly to hollow backwards towards the spine. Back the kidneys up, the diaphragm up a little bit, and lean back against your tree. The head slides back into a little pillow. Beautiful. Set your left hand outside your left hip. Slide the left leg out to your side. Pick up onto the right leg squat. Go ahead and smoothly transition off the right leg over to the left. Turn the left leg in most of the time. You don't have to do it all the time. The left leg can turn out in a squat, of course, but most of the time, functionally, it's going to turn in. Shift over to the right side again. Turn the right side in as you squat. Set the left hand down outside the left leg. Have a seat. Sweep the legs back in. Right leg ends up in front. So just changing the legs as you land. Set the right hand outside your right hip. Turn to your right. Extend the right leg. Lift up. Squatting on the left leg. Shift over to the right side. Bonus points for cracking knees. And over to the left side again. Squatting. Set the right hand outside the right leg. Drop to a seat. Sit cross-legged. Left leg in front. Pause. One more time. Left hand outside the left hip. Look left. Extend the left leg out. Pick yourself up onto the right leg squat. And shift the hips over the left leg. Side squatting on the left side. Finding your transitions. Everything is a transition. Shift over to the right side again. Squatting. Left hand outside the left leg. Have a seat. But sit as the legs fold with the right leg in front. Right leg in front. So again, just a quick reminder, it's really important, and you have to use your eyes when you're moving around like this. What helped heal my meniscus injury, which was from a silly thing on a mountain bike, 2-year process, was a lot of this work, but you've got to point the foot where the thigh is pointing. If the foot is turned out and the knee is turned in, which is typically the case, you'll end up putting a lot of torsion on the knee, which is no good. So right hand down on the outside of the right hip, look right, the squat. So right here, you can look at your left leg and maybe you can tell, is the knee looking in while the foot is turning out, or vice versa? Keep the toes and the knee pointing in the same direction. Shift over to your right side. Squatting on the right. Yeah, beautiful. You use your hands intelligently, beautiful. Let's shift over to your left again. Track the pointing, track the angle of the knee and the hip and the foot. Right hand on the outside, have a seat. Sit cross-legged with the left leg in front. Pause. So let's take this into one of the guided sequences, the detailed sequences that we often do near the end of class. So the way this starts is something like this. You're sitting with the left leg in front. You're going to take your right knee up and set the right leg inside, okay? Then you're going to extend your left leg forward so you can just sit like this, and you can hold on to the right leg. You can also, as an option, put your left hand down, lift the hips up off the floor, and then maybe catch the bent left leg, in which case you could actually progress from here to just floating and just pistol squat, but that's pretty intense, so that's up to you. And then from here, what we're going to do is just go 90 degrees out to your left, climb out into the shape of a lunge, another key. Now the lunge is not linear, it's something to move within, bending the left knee and lengthening the back leg, and then follow that with maybe backing the hips way up into a long crouch. Moving and finding your own variations, using as much weight on the hands as you can to sustain yourself, to make sure that you can open up to more possibilities. Then, like a pigeon in yoga, fold the left leg underneath you and come down onto your elbows. Now it's important to slide the left knee over to the left a bit and tuck the left heel inside the right hip. The left toes should point back and to the right, and try, if you can, to get on the top of the left foot and the front of the left shin more. The back leg, the knee is down, the toes are tucked under. Stay here for a moment and lift the diaphragm a little away from the ground, pushing the elbows and forearms into the ground. Setting the head against the sky pillow, picking up the kidneys, dropping the pelvis. Now, press the back foot into the ground as you slowly turn to your right, sitting up, keeping the left leg folded in front of you, the right leg out to your right. And as you transition, the heel is pulling down into the ground. So begin to lean into it just a little bit, and here you're going to feel a lot of stretch in the hamstrings, the inner thigh, the left side belly, and this is where you want to really turn everything on, so that the stretch turns into function, it turns into action. Great. Now from here, turning towards your right leg, coming up into a long squat, similar to what we did before, but let your right foot come in a little bit. So you're squatting left side, right leg is forward. We're going to use the hands, lift the hips into a crouch, right leg leading in a crouch. Now, turn the back leg, the left leg forward. Walk your hands back and slide your right leg up into the sky. In any shape, doesn't matter, but put your hands on the floor, turn the biceps forward, and lift the left heel off the ground. The standing heel comes off the ground. Reach the right leg way up into the sky, and then switch your legs. And if you want, you can jump and switch your legs. Right leg down, left leg high. Now, bring your left leg down behind you and across the midline just a little bit. Turn to your left as you sit, and you'll end up landing cross-legged with the right leg in front. Oh, how did we get back here? So take a moment, sitting now with the right leg crossed in front. Just giving your heart, since the heart rate elevates and the whole rhythm, the cardiopulmonary rhythm is elevated, give it space to be that shaman's drum. Now, set the left leg inside, meaning the knee is up and the foot is down. Right leg forward, and this would be great, just like this, okay? You can also maybe lift up onto the right hand, lifting the hips a little bit off the ground. You could also float the leg, just keep the leg bent. It doesn't really matter, you can fully, freely float. I'm going to take the right leg out to the side and lift up and crawl into a lunge, 90 degrees to your right leg forward. And we're just going to move around in this shape, however you can find intuitively. So try all kinds of things, and where the old conditioning might be having you search for a stretch, it's really more about the spaciousness and the strength at the same moment. And then we're going to fold the right leg into a closed pigeon, meaning it's basically a lunge that's folded. So come down to the elbows carefully and make sure that the right heel is tucked inside the left hip, the right toes pointed back into the left. Push down into the elbows and lift the kidneys and lift the back of the heart and the back of the cranium. While you push the left foot down into the floor, slowly turn to your left, pushing the left foot down the whole time until you've come up, the right leg folded in front of you, the left leg off to the side. Lean softly over the left leg, and where you feel the stretch in the right side belly and cue out, you're going to really engage. Just try turning the right buttocks on. Pull the left heel down into the ground without locking the knee. And then come up and turn towards your left leg and carefully climb out. Use your hands into a squat, bringing the left foot in a little closer. Lift the hips into the key of crouching, left leg forward. And so here, just moving around, this is one of the most versatile. You can do all kinds of cool things. The left leg is in front. And you're playing, exploring. And then turn your back leg, hop your back foot a little forward and turn it straight ahead. That's your right foot. Slide your hands back, swing the left leg back and up. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. Lean into the hands forward, turn the hands a little bit out, and turn the biceps forward, and then pick up the right heel as high as you can. Lean into the hands, push your chest towards your standing knee, and then switch your legs however you like. And push the right leg into the sky. Bring the right leg down behind you across the midline as you turn to your right, have a seat. Left leg in front. As you sit and land, and just pause. Okay, one more time before we go to our final sequence. So set your right leg inside, knee up, foot down, left leg forward. You can stay here. You can lift up onto the left hand. You can float the whole thing. Okay. Turn to your left hand down. Climb into a lunge. One of the best hip openers ever designed by nature. Really, really long stance. And carefully fold the left leg into your folded lunge, your pigeon. It's very similar to pigeon in yoga. Bring the elbows down. And this is just a transition. Now we're going to push the back foot, the toes are tucked under, down into the floor as you turn to your right. Keep the right leg engaged the whole time as you sit up. Right leg out to the side, left leg folded in front. And lean over the right side a little bit. Coming up and turning towards the right leg. Set the left leg and come into a long squat. Right foot slides in. Then that's a transition to lift the hips into the crouch. Right leg leading. So play around here for a moment. So much of your variation that you find on your own is about equalizing residual tension from things that have recently happened that are still clinging. Now we're going to hop the back foot in a little, the left foot pointing straight ahead, slide everything back. Put the hands down, take the right leg up into the sky. And just kind of play around. Lift the left heel if you can and really load the hands if possible. And switch the legs. Lean into the hands if you can. Set your left foot down behind you and across the midline just a little bit. Ankles almost touching. Turn to your left and you'll sit and the right leg ends up in front. Last time. So setting the inside leg, left leg, right leg is forward. Lift up if you can. You take your right leg out to the right, climb out into a lunge, right leg is in front, left leg back, and explore. Fold into your pigeon lunge, down onto the elbows. Press the ball of the back foot down the whole time as you come up and turn to your left. Keeping the tone through the hip. Lean over the left side. Come up and turn towards the left leg. Climb into a squat, left foot leading. Bring the left foot in. And then just lift the hips into the crouch. Now, one of the best variations in the crouch is how long the stance is. You can change the stance length all kinds of ways, from very short to very long. So, set your back leg a little behind and turn straight ahead. Swing the left leg back and up, put the palms down. Bend the standing knee, lift the right heel, and point the left knee to the sky. Left leg. And then switch sides. Right leg up, left leg down. Drop the right foot behind across the midline. Just turn to your right, quarter turn as you sit. Left leg in front. Lay down for a moment. And the shape of your supine can be anything it needs to be. Knees bent, feet in, or you can have your legs long. Empty the soles of your feet with a few exhalations, a few conscious out breaths. Consciously return to a seat. We'll do one more simpler phrase. Okay. Last piece before we finish, everyone. Start with the left leg in front again. Okay. So the way this goes is kind of similar to the way we started a little earlier. Take your left hand down outside your left hip. And we're going to set the right leg. But as you turn to your left and lift up, you take your left leg around behind you and just cross the midline. And then that turns again into a squat where you have your hands on the ground behind you. So let's try that. Start with your left leg in front. Look left, put your left hand down. You're going to set your inside leg, as we have been doing. Elevate your left side as you turn to your left. Lift the left leg up and just cross the line behind you. And stay here for a moment in the cross crouch. So you have your right crossing your left, your knees are bent, your hands are down, you're moving around. Great hip opener. And then from here, as you put your right hand down, turn to your left again, and you end up in a squat with your hands on the floor behind you. Now from here, cross your right knee over your left like this. And you're just going to turn to your left. Take the legs with you. And you end up, if I'm still on camera, the right leg crossing the left again. Then step your left leg out in front of you into a crouch. Left leg crouching. Play around. Easy breath. Soften the eyes. A quarter turn to your right into what would be like kind of wide legs. Dropping over onto your left side in a squat. Now, put your right hand down outside your right hip. This is tricky. Turn onto your right side. You're going to step over the top into plank. From plank, bring your right knee to your left elbow. And then lower your right hip down towards the floor and come back up. Set your right leg back. Left knee to right elbow. Lower the left hip towards the floor. Come back up. Switch one more time. Right knee to left elbow. Lower the right hip all the way down. Have a C. Turn to your left. Cross the legs. Right leg in front. Pause. Wasn't that fun? Okay. So, look to your right, put your right hand down outside the right hip, set your left leg inside, knee up, foot down. Lift the hips, lift the right leg, turn all the way around to your right. Fly the right leg high, and then across your midline behind you. So you have your left crossing your right. All right, here we go. Now from here, put your left hand down. Continue to turn to your right, dropping into a squat. You end up with your hands behind you, both feet on the floor, which is really nice. Cross the left knee over the right knee, okay? And then keep the knees tangled as you turn to your right. Put the ball of the left foot down. Pick up the right foot, and you end up crossing left over right again, same place we started. Knees bent in a fold, crouch, the left leg in front, across the midline. Step your right leg out from behind, forward, into a crouch. Good. Now turn a quarter turn to your left. Wide-ish legs. Drop onto the right side in a side squat. Then take your left hand outside your left hip, far away from the body. Turn the left toes towards the floor. Step over the top into plank. Bring your left knee to your right elbow. Hold it and lower your left hip towards the floor. Almost touch and come back up. Step the left leg back. Right knee to left elbow. Lower the hip almost to the floor. Come back up. Set the right leg back. Left knee to right elbow. Left hip almost on the floor, then lower all the way down. Turn and sit to the right. Left leg in front. Good times. Last time through, everyone, before we rest. Look left. Set your inside leg, knee up. Lift the hip, turn to your left, swing the left leg up behind you, and then drop it behind you across the midline. Keep turning, put your right hand down, keep turning to your left, come out into a squat, both hands down, then cross your right knee over your left knee. Keep the knees tied, turn to your left. You end up dropping your left leg behind across the midline once again. Step your left leg out in front of you into a crouch. Move around and balance, equalize, play. Turn a quarter turn to your right, dropping into a side squat on your left leg. Yum. Take your right hand outside the right hip, quite a ways away. Lift the hips, step over the top into plank. Bring your right knee to your left elbow and brush the floor with your right hip. Come back up. Step the right leg back. Left leg, left knee to right elbow. Touch the left hip, bounce back up. Step the left leg back. Right knee to left elbow. Come all the way down. Turn and sit to your left. Right leg in front. Take a moment, close the eyes, and feel the stimulation to the side belly on the back, near the kidneys, all the way down into the hips. It might also be talking to the groin and the inner thigh, and the reciprocal of that relationship. And give that a lot of breath. Last time through, look to your right, put the right hand down, set the left leg. Okay, so go ahead and lift the right hip and leg, turn to your right, fly the right leg way up, drop it behind you across the midline, left hand stays down, turn to your right, you squat, right hand behind you too, stack your left knee on top, roll to your right, keep your knees tangled up so the right foot has to leave the floor and crosses behind you, left over right. You guys at home, like, you're amazing to even be able to sort this out through a screen. Step the right leg forward, crouch, move, turn a quarter turn to your left, and drop onto the right side and do a side squat. So come up, take your left hand way off to your left, lift the hips, turn over onto the ball of the left foot, step over the top into plank, both hands down. Bring your left knee to your right elbow, hold, drop the left hip almost to the floor, come back up. Right knee to left elbow, same thing. Once again on the left knee to right elbow, lower down slow, have a seat, turn and sit, however you like. And maybe you have hair like this. Maybe your hair ends up like this. This is a mushroom of fluff. Go ahead and lie down, everyone, and rest. Do it consciously, okay? So much to be grateful for. This breath, this moment, everything that you're feeling. Let the pelvic floor be transparent and empty, buoyant, completely connected to your root space. You'll feel this in the soles of the feet as they are also very open and buoyant. Make your way in time consciously up to sitting. Beautiful work, everyone. I know it's pretty wild and crazy in the jungle of movement, but wow. As long as you're not banging your head too hard off the bedpost or the piano, you'll be good. So enjoy your day and blessings. Thank you so much.